As this discussion and debate over the immigration reform has gone on, I've made a number of statements. I think many of them, unfortunately, have been proven true. I said the bill didn't promise enforcement at the border. Now apparently we're waiting again to see where this amendment comes that they claim will dramatically improve enforcement at the border. And we hadn't seen it yet. Maybe it won't appear, but I think they say it would. It was in the newspapers yesterday and said it would fix everything with the bill. Well, of course, it will only deal with the border, apparently, in any significant way. And there are many, many other serious flaws in this legislation that simply have to be addressed. I also complained that we had all these secret meetings and groups there, and the public interest, the law enforcement interest was excluded. The only people that were there was special interest. And I've talked about that, and talked about the influence of the White House meetings and directing the agenda and how the bill was all written. Well, here today's New York Times has a story about that. I think it's relevant for us to read because it's further confirmation that we have an elite group of people with special agendas meeting to draft legislation that's going to impact all Americans. It's going to impact the entire country. And nobody's speaking up for the average American citizen in any effective way that I can see. They aren't even being thought about. They're talking to pollsters and consultants and political gurus and advocacy groups, open borders groups, low-wage labor groups. All right, here it is. Today's New York Times, the headline, White House offers stealth campaign to support immigration bill. Why won't they stealthy? Why? This is secret campaign? Apparently so. Quote, the hideout has no sign on the door, but inside Dirksen 201 is a spare suite of offices the White House has transformed into its covert immigration war room on Capitol Hill, close quote. Dirksen 201, I didn't know that's where they were meeting over there. Last night on the floor, I said, I wonder where they're meeting, plotting all these things. Somehow that right now presume they're plotting this amendment, trying to get more votes and wheeling and dealing and giving Louisiana purchases and Cornhusker kickbacks, I suppose, to get votes. Where's the public interest? Meeting secretly over there, covert war room in Dirksen. Quote, strategically located down the hall from the Senate Judiciary Committee. Our room is on the second floor too. In one of the city's massive congressional office building, the workspace normally reserved for the vice president is now the hub of a stealthy legislative operation run by President Obama's staff. Their goal is to quietly secure passage of the first immigration overhaul in a quarter of a century, close quote. So that's where the driving force is coming from. I've been wondering where they've been meeting. Now the New York Times tells us. Quote, we are trying hard not to be heavy-handed about what we're doing, said Cecilia Munoz, the director of the White House Domestic Policy Council and the president's point person on immigration. Now, Ms. Munoz, Director Munoz, is an able person, but she's got an agenda on immigration. She was one of the leaders in La Raza a number of years ago and publicly stated that workplace verification, the things this bill claims to have in it, but not very effectively, I'm afraid, and that we've never implemented effectively before. But there was a workplace verification plan in the 1986 amnesty bill that was supposed to keep illegal entrants from getting jobs in America. And it was under fierce criticism, and it basically never worked. Ms. Munoz said that workplace verification was discrimination. In other words, to have a policy that would require businesses to provide jobs only to people who are legally in America is discrimination. And she attacked it and said Congress had a moral obligation to repeal that law. And she's the White House, I just want to say, this is the White House director of the immigration policy. This is not an even-handed policy that we have. It's being driven by this kind of agenda. It just is.